Stable Diffusion did a really great job. I'm really surprised. Stability AI just announced their latest version of Stable Diffusion 3.5. But in their own documentation, they say that it has better prompt adherence than Flux and I guess slightly less aesthetic quality. Let's see what this model can do. So first, what we'll need to do to install this is if we scroll up to the Stable Diffusion link and we click on this, it'll bring us to the Hugging Face Stable Diffusion page. This is currently the model that's released, and if you haven't done it yet, it will ask you to fill out a form, just like with your name and email and stuff. I already filled it out, so it's not going to be here for me. Once you do that, it gives you access to download the files. If you click on this files, we're going to download this SD 3.5 large safe tensors. You will also need these text encoders. So in the text encoders file, you can download a clip G, clip L. FP16 is if you have a powerful enough GPU, and then the FP8 version it's a modified version for lower VRAM systems, but you will need 3 of these clips. So 1, 2, and then either the high VRAM or the low VRAM versions. So download those. You move the SD 3.5 large checkpoint into your checkpoints folder, and then the clips go into ComfyUI models clip. Now you'll notice mine specifically have the word Flux in front of it. So if you had Flux installed already, I just had renamed it Flux because originally they were for Flux, but SD 3.5 also uses them. So if you have Flux, you can use the same Flux clip. So while we're still at this Hugging Face page, there's one more thing that I want to do. We're going to go back to files and versions, and I just want to download this SD 3.5L example workflow. If you just download that will be our starting point for the ComfyUI setup. We're going to go into ComfyUI and we'll just load in that file that we just downloaded. It looks like this. You will set your checkpoint to the SD 3.5 large wherever you saved it. Mine happens to be in a folder called SD 3.5 and then the checkpoint, so just make sure that it matches whatever's on your system. This triple clip encoder will ask for the clip G. So clip G is here. The clip L, mine again says Flux in front of it. They are the same, and the same thing for the T5XXL. And that's it. So they have a default example right here. We can hit Q prompt. Oh, and then there we go. So this is like our first example image, which is great. But I think what would be really useful is to see how this compares to Flux, like side by side. So let's just do that. I'm going to open a second ComfyUI window and paste this. And what I'm going to do is go to load up the Flux example workflow. If you're not familiar with that, it is this one. I'll leave links to this in the description, but it's just the XLabs XFlux. They have a link to their CR GitHub for ComfyUI workflows. If we open that, we'll click this here and open it. There is a little folder that says workflows. I'm going to download this LoRa workflow. We'll hit the download button right here, and I'm going to load that into this blank ComfyUI. Just drag it right in. So this is our basic Flux setup. All right, so what I'll do is I'll hold Control, select all these nodes, copy, and go back to our first ComfyUI window with the SD 3.5, and I'm going to just paste all these nodes in. To make things really clear, this group is SD 3.5 and this group is Flux. We're not going to be using the Flux LoRa, so I'll just disable this for now. I'm just going to make sure all my nodes are properly selected, which they look like they are, right? Yeah. My clip L and my T5XXL, that looks good. All right, so what we'll do is put down a text input. And this is going to drive our prompt for both. So I'll go up to the SD 3.5. If we right click this, we can convert widget to input. We'll convert text to input. So this will be from our text. And then we'll do the same for here, convert widget to input. We'll do this for clip L and T5XXL to input. And then this string will go into both. So all I'm doing is setting this text input, which will change the color. Change this color to the blue. So this text input drives the same prompt for both the SD 3.5 and the Flux versions. And then instead of a preview image, I'll use a save image. And I'll use a save image down here for Flux as well. And then I'll put these side by side so that we can compare. SD will be on the left, Flux will be on the right. All right. So let's give it a try. First, we can use the same exact prompt that we generated in our preview image, which was the bottle. So we'll use this basically. Let's run this for our first comparison. We'll queue it up. Okay, so here are our results. Stable Diffusion on the left, Flux on the right. I do think they're both pretty cool. The Stable Diffusion is a bit more fantasy style and has some really interesting backgrounds and some more illustrative, except for the foreground images, which are kind of realistic, which is a little strange, but I didn't specify a style, so maybe that's why. And Flux is more realistic, but there's less, you know, visual background, no foreground elements. I mean, both are nice. I think Flux is more realistic, which is what it specializes in. So let's try a different prompt that specifies a style and has a human subject. So we'll go back to our prompt input, and so this is a pretty detailed prompt. I wanted to go with something detailed because SD 3.5 specifically in their documentation says that it has really great prompt adherence. So we're going to add a lot about describing the background, the type of sunlight. I want to see a bokeh effect. I want to see warm greens and yellows, you know, description of the main subject, the type of hair, the type of lighting, the environment, the type of clothing. So let's queue this up and I'll see what we get. Okay, so here are our results. Just as a reminder, I'm gonna drag the prompt all the way over so that we can see it as we compare these images. First of all, I actually think that the SD takes this one in terms of just overall first impression. I think especially like these freckles around the face, which we did prompt for. I mean, we said lightly freckled. I think this one is more lightly freckled and more realistic. The Flux one looks not as natural. It's like more in a very specific area of her face. They both got the curly auburn hair, and I think they both did the golden hour lighting and the forest canopy. Although I do think that, again, Stable Diffusion did a better job with the overall lighting. Flux has it, but it's just very harsh. I don't know if that might have just been the randomness of, you know, the seed. The green velvet dress with intricate embroidery, both kind of have that. This little embroidery here and here both look like a velvet style, so I think they both did a great job with that. Gentle breeze with a few loose strands of hair. That's interesting. I don't know if the breeze reads too well, but there are some loose strands of hair, like on both of them. Flux is up here and on the side, and Stable Diffusion is over here. Background is softly blurred. Both did a great job. Dappled sunlighting, both did a great job. Bokeh effect, I think the bokeh effect might read a little better on the Flux. I see this bokeh here, but Stable Diffusion also has this bokeh, so I think both did a great job with that. Let's try something more in like a futuristic sci-fi, maybe cyberpunk type of realm. So let's try this right here. We're going futuristic. We got neon lighting, cyberpunk environment. I threw this in because I don't know if it will work. I don't know if it can do partially lifted. We'll see. That'll be very interesting. Anything with the digital HUD would be really cool. And we're gonna have some environment details. We'll even throw in some raindrops. Let's give this one a shot. Okay, so here are our results. All right, both look pretty great, actually. You know, here's our prompt. This is a very long prompt. This is way longer prompt than I normally do. I'm just doing it for the sake of testing. And we do have this neon lighting on a rooftop. Really great. Both armors look great. You know, Flux might be a little bit more reflective. I see kind of like these specular highlights. I do see a little bit in, you know, the SD one, and it's, you know, raining. So this one actually might be, this kind of comes off as more plasticky, and this one might come as like a matte armor. But I mean, just aesthetic choice really at that point. You know, we asked for a foggy scene under her with flying vehicles. I actually don't see that in either one. Maybe it is foggy but no vehicles. And the city below is dramatic with like fine raindrops. Both did a really great job adhering to the prompt. It's really more aesthetically which one you're looking for. I might lean to this one as the Stable Diffusion as my overall, just aesthetically. I think that this one came out a little bit nicer, but I could see this just being seed again. Just, you generate a couple of seeds and let's see which one you get. So far, I'm pretty happy with this Stable Diffusion 3.5 though. Let's do one more. This is one that I know both Stable Diffusion and Flux have kind of struggled with, and this is why I'm gonna do it. And it's just non-human fantasy subjects. I'm gonna put in this prompt, and what I'm really looking for is how it handles demons. Earlier versions of Stable Diffusion, XL 1.5 haven't done well with demons. Flux, it kind of can do it. It's hit or miss. So it'll be interesting to see. I prompted a lot for, a lot of lava and embers. So this is like a very typical prompt that I do in my personal style. Let's see how they do now. All right, here are the results. The Flux came out kind of how I was expecting. I was trying to describe this a little bit earlier. It doesn't do a great job with fantasy type characters. On the other hand, Stable Diffusion did a really great job. I'm really surprised. It did get a lot of the things that I prompted for. I mean, fiery cracks running along the muscular frame. Technically both do that, but this one did a way better job. This is kind of what I was hoping to see out of this. Something really realistic like this. Just the overall aesthetic of the Stable Diffusion came out so realistic. So I'm really happy with this Stable Diffusion version. I think 3.5 has a lot of potential. I'm gonna keep playing with this just to see what I can create. And I'll probably put that in like the intro or outro. Definitely worth checking out. I really think this is something that can compete with Flux, and it's looking really great. I'm really happy with this release. So that wraps up my showdown between Flux and the new Stable Diffusion. I hope this gave you a good look at how these models tackle different styles and details, and maybe some inspiration for your next project. Don't forget to like if you found this helpful, and subscribe for more insights and tips on the latest AI tools to fuel your creativity. As always, let me know in the comments which model impressed you, and if you want a more detailed breakdown of how to use Flux and its LoRa's, I will link my Flux LoRa video. Happy creating, and I'll see you in the next one.